All right, is everyone on their way? Yeah, I'm about to head out right now. Psh, of course I'm packing heat. What do you take me for? What was that? What do you mean, what did we say about cell phone? Uh-oh.
Police, open up!
Yes. What is up, everybody? Random Man here, bringing you my review for Widows. Based on the 1983 ITV series of the same name, the plot of this heist film basically follows a group of women, played by Viola Davis, Michelle Rodriguez, and Elizabeth Debicki, who attempt a heist to pay back a crime boss, played by Brian Tyree Henry, after their criminal husbands, their leader, played by Liam Neeson, are all killed in a botched job. Going into this movie, saying I was excited for it is an understatement. This movie became my most anticipated film of 2018 after I saw the first trailer for it. It looked like a heist movie grounded in realism and set in the seedy underbelly of a city that has a lot of dirty dealings behind it. Before the trailer came out for it, though, I was already really looking forward to seeing this film based on its concept, its cast, and writer and director. This movie was co-written and directed by Steve McQueen, whose previous directorial effort was 12 Years a Slave, a really hard-hitting and terrific period piece drama, which, as the Blu-ray indicates, eventually won the Oscar for Best Picture. Really well deserving of that title. The other co-writer of this film is Gillian Flynn, who is famous for writing works such as Gone Girl, which was eventually turned into the film adaptation from 2014, for which she also wrote the screenplay for. And I think this is also another fantastic movie. So having these two behind the camera got me hooked, as I've said, and also the huge cast that accompanied the concept that this movie was displaying. Speaking of that stacked ensemble, let's get right into the cast and their performances here, starting out with Viola Davis as one of the title widows. She is stupendous here, as always. She shows a lot of grief with her husband having been killed in this botched job, but also turmoil in not knowing what to do when this crime boss threatens her to give back the money that her husband stole from him. So that leads her to take charge and plan out this heist in order for this to all be behind her and really just start a new life. And yeah, as I said, Viola Davis is stupendous.
Shout out to the cute dog she has in the movie, too.
There's also Michelle Rodriguez as one of the other widows, and she's usually associated with more over-the-top action kind of films, but in this dramatic turn, I thought she did a superb job here. Also superb is Elizabeth Debicki, who I have to give a specific shout out to as one of the other widows of the film, as she plays a woman who also has to deal with a lot of grief like Davis and Rodriguez's characters, but also has the added baggage of becoming an escort so that she could provide for herself. And her having been abused by her husband before this job went down, yeah, she has a lot on her plate as well. And I thought Debicki handled this all with such tenacity and nuance. There's also Cynthia Erivo as the last member of this group. She is not a widow herself. She is an outsider who comes in to be the driver for the group of widows pulling off this heist. And she has a lot of athleticism with how she portrays her character. And like, she is so built physique-wise, and also just with her own mini side story as well in providing for herself and her daughter. And yeah, Michelle Rodriguez's character also has a couple kids. But then there's a bunch of other people as well here I have to mention, such as Brian Tyree Henry, that crime boss who threatens Davis's character to pay him back for the stolen money that he had. And he is also running for a political position against Colin Farrell's character. And Henry, I thought, did a terrific job here, as does Farrell as this politician who gets mixed up in all of this. Another standout here would have to be Daniel Kaluuya as the brother to Henry's character, who is a crime enforcer, and oof, talk about a chilling performance. He is quite scary at points and unpredictable in terms of what he would do in a scene he is in. As one moment he would be looking at someone with a bunch of intimidation, but then the next, he would get violent, and whoa, Kaluuya is becoming one of the more notable up-and-coming actors of recent memory, and this role he has in Widows backs that up for me. Carrie Coon also plays one of the other widows, but doesn't get involved with the job. I thought her ample screen time here was fine. Robert Duvall plays the father to Colin Farrell's character, stepping down from his current political position for his son to run and take over after suffering a heart attack. He needs no introduction. He's a veteran actor, and for the screen time that he does have, he does show off how he is a product of the city of Chicago in all of the really corrupt politics that are associated with the city, at least in the way this movie presents it. And there's Liam Neeson as the husband to Viola Davis's character and the leader of the bank robbing group that gets killed at the beginning. And he is seen mainly in flashbacks throughout the movie to back up the past relationship that he had with Davis's character. And then there's other people that show up here as well, such as Manuel Garcia Rulfo as the husband to Rodriguez's character, John Bernthal as the husband to DeBecky's character, Lucas Haas even shows up in a minor role. But regardless of the role in this huge cast here, I think everyone does fantastic jobs, but specific shout outs have to go to Davis, DeBecky, and Kaluuya. The writing in this film was done again by director Steve McQueen and writer Gillian Flynn, and it sets up a lot of high stakes for the characters involved here with some grounded realism, as I've gladly expected this movie to do. When this movie begins, it opens on this shot of Davis and Neeson's characters getting intimate with each other, but intercut with the heist gone wrong with Neeson's character and his gang of criminals, and them eventually getting killed. Then, as the widows are grieving, we are given more plot threads involving the politicians that are vying for this political position within the city of Chicago, and also eventually the storyline with Cynthia Erivo's character is thrown in as the outsider to the group of widows planning and executing this heist. With all of this setup, one would think that it is very character driven, which it is for a lot of individual moments to be created and shared for us to see what each character is going through. And also, to my surprise, with how the movie is in tone, this movie is more of a hard-hitting drama than it is a non-stop action thrill ride of a heist movie. As yes, this movie is set up with the concept of this heist that the widows have to pull off so that they could have a new life thereafter. But with this movie setting itself up as being more meditative and a lot more explorative with the characters and what they go through while living in this environment, I did not expect this movie to have as much social commentary as it did, but since it was all grounded in such realism and tangibility with its themes, it got me more engrossed with the story at hand here, with the politicians vying for the position that they want to get elected for, a bunch of stuff dealing with sexism, abuse, also the disparity between some social classes, which is shown off beautifully in one visual sequence, which I'll mention later. Just all of that laced into this film got me thinking quite a bit. That is what this movie is mainly comprised of, while infusing the character moments and main through line of Davis's character being given a month by the crime boss played by Brian Tyree Henry to get the money back to him, as director Steve McQueen really has a great hand in focusing the character moments and all the other stuff leading up to the heist that does occur at the end of this film. As McQueen is directing the hell out of this movie, we are treated to quite a bit of technical elements that do make this movie stand out and popped and had me more engaged, such as the cinematography. The cinematography deserves quite a bit of mentioning, as it does show off the city of Chicago with such prowess in how it does show off the urban decay while also having some affluent attributes to where the politician played by Colin Farrell is living, as one specific sequence has him leaving the impoverished area that he was promoting himself at in a car, and the camera is placed on the front of the car facing the windshield while showing off the street, and it goes for this long tracking shot all the way to where he lives, and it shows that he went from a really poor area to a more rich area. I can personally speak to the authenticity that this movie shows in portraying Chicago, in that I was born in Chicago, though I do live in a nearby suburb, and around Chicagoland, if you do go down one street in some areas, you can go from a poor neighborhood to a rich neighborhood in minutes, and vice versa. And speaking of how Chicago is portrayed in this film, yeah, some locations I did recognize through various streets, and also specifically with the bowling alley that is shown in this movie. It is right near where I went to school from kindergarten to 8th grade. So yeah, wow, it showed off this city in both a positive and negative light, but in terms of how it is shown on a filmmaking level, I haven't seen a movie set and shot this well in Chicago since The Dark Knight a decade ago. Other technical merits include the production design, which I've already mentioned, and how Chicago is shown, the editing in scenes transitioning from one another, the score, which was composed by Hans Zimmer, and it was subtle at first, but during some more prevalent moments of tension, it really does amp itself up to be very Hans Zimmer-y, but to me, that is a great thing, as it was effective in getting my blood pumping throughout some of the more heightened moments, especially towards the end with the actual heist sequence. And speaking of that, the action in this film, when it is shown, it is well done from the direction of Steve McQueen and all around staging from the actors involved. And this sequence is done pretty quickly. It is a very simple job at its core. It is nothing too flashy, but then again, other heists that take place in an urban area, I would imagine, aren't very extravagant in scale. So the way it was pulled off at the end of this movie, just about pitch perfect. The movie runs at about 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I've got to say, I was never bored while watching it. Again, I was surprised for how engaged I was with the drama and all other moments with the characters here, because again, the themes were so prevalent and thought-provoking as I was watching it. So I rarely ever felt this movie skip a beat. Really, I do not have that much to complain about in regards to Widows. There is one note of contention involving a scene with Michelle Rodriguez's character that I thought was out of place. You'll know it when you see it. And yeah, I thought that could have been cut altogether. And there is a tendency for the movie to feel like it does have a lot on its plate, kind of similar to the previous movie I have reviewed on my channel, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Unlike that movie, though, I think Widows had more of a balance with its characters, and others could say that there are some quibbles here and there involving conveniences or otherwise setting up and executing the action that does eventually take place. But really, that was the main focus of the film in general. At least that was the intention I got from what Steve McQueen was doing with this story, in it being about the planning at some moments, but also really showing the characters and how they are grieving, while also showing off the moral ambiguity of all of these people. I've also got to mention something related to the plot here, in that there is a twist of sorts that occurs about, I would say, 2/3 of the way through the film, and I actually saw it coming from the beginning. Now, that's not a bad thing for the movie, as it does play up more of the moral ambiguity that this movie has created for a lot of the characters and all-around backdrop that this movie sets up with the location of Chicago and the situation that these characters are put in. And that really got to me in terms of how this movie was so realistically played up. And in terms of it being a female-led dramatic film that has the heist in the background or towards the end, this is something that I wished Ocean's 8 from earlier this year would have done. Now, granted, I personally enjoyed Ocean's 8 for it being a fun kind of heist movie, but this movie felt a lot more of my speed in terms of its pulpy nature, the drama at its core, and it also subverting expectations with it not being a nonstop action thrill ride, which I know will give some people a bit of hesitance to really get into this movie. I've seen some mixed reviews among the YouTube movie reviewing community for the execution not sitting well with a bunch of people. But on my end, I found myself so invested with what this film created, and it made for something that still has me thinking a lot about it after I have finished watching this movie. And I feel like I will get more out of this film upon a rewatch to catch more of the little intricacies, and also me just wanting to see more of Chicago as it was filmed. All in all, I think this film is a tremendous one to behold, and McQueen, Flynn, and company should be commended for what they have created here, as it is one of the most essential movies to see from 2018. If you are a fan of film or just really good dramas in general, I think this has your number on it. If you're looking for something that does have a lot of action throughout, or is something that is nonstop in terms of its pace, I would set your expectations accordingly, as this is not a straight up action movie. Expect a really calculating drama that has a lot of themes and commentary with it. Couple that with a lot of the amazing performances here and the technical merits that make this movie so stunning, and you have a film that is one of my favorite movies of 2018 thus far. I highly recommend it. My final verdict for Widows is 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Widows. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.